Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, welcome to the postcast. I'm Steven Willis. LSU a 45-20 winner over Ole Miss. Ole Miss just completely did not show up in the second half. The things that Bill Flowers has been railing about for 3 weeks, it actually appeared. Ole Miss
Yep.
started out first. They were 17-3 in the first quarter, first play of the second quarter. After that, LSU outscored them. Let's see, 42-3 or something like that. It is just really a they did not meet the moment. I told you all week that LSU was going to run the ball, they were going to play similarly than people have, and LSU was going to force Jackson Dart to win the game. Jackson Dart could not do that. In the first quarter, he threw for 200 yards. He threw for like 80 yards the rest of the game, including a bad interception that really turned the game over. And Ole Miss has problems at tight end. They have problems in run defense at the moment. Now it's becoming a confidence thing. And as we've seen with Arkansas, that can happen. I'm here with Tom Vanderford, Derek Vandygriff, and we are going to talk a little bit about this game. Tom, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, goodness. Well, I was pleasantly pleased for the first quarter and a half or so, and thought we were doing exactly what I'd hoped we would do. And the thing that I took away from it is penalties, injuries, and a lack of our coaching staff to make halftime adjustments when their coaching staff did make halftime adjustments is part of the reason we're sitting here talking about getting beat by 25 points today.
Yeah, it's a serious issue. Derek, what's up, man?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of piggybacking off what Tom said there. Obviously a really good first quarter. It's kind of the way this year's gone for us, right? We've had one good half and one bad half. With Vanderbilt, it was the bad first half, good second half. Most time, it's the good first half with the bad second half, and that's what ended up biting us here today. You knew eventually if you didn't put four quarters together, it was going to end up getting you at some point. And sure enough, today was the day. Dart with that really bad interception there in the second half. I thought he played really good in the first half. There was, the play to Mingo that he missed there in the first half where he got behind the safeties and overthrew him by, 3 or 4 yards. That was an easy touchdown. And then there in the second half, even outside the interception, he had Mingo behind the defense again and ended up throwing inside of him right there when he was running out. And, Mingo wasn't able to make the play there, so that was another miss. We didn't run the ball the way we always do, and some of that may have been not having Zach Evans too. You don't have that fresh back in there with the talent level of Evans and Judkins. When you swap those two out every other drive, it really puts a lot of pressure on the defense. And it was Judkins carrying the rock most of the game, and it ended up coming up and biting us today, and that's really unfortunate. It's not what we've seen from this team week in and week out so far this year. We've always been able to run the ball no matter what, and obviously the absence of Zach Evans and keeping fresh backs in there with that kind of skill level, I think, is what ended up hurting us today more than anything, along with Dart missing those couple throws, even though I think he played overall pretty well that first half.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. And first of all, as a fan, there's nothing that any of us say that has any consequence whatsoever.
No.
None. Nothing
None.
that is said on this show, nothing said in the post game show, none of that affects anything. They don't listen to us. If they do, that's a problem. Michael is asking, where's Evan? Evans turns out is injured. One of those rumors that we had from earlier in the week when they said that he played and all that, he practiced. Apparently, he was injured.
Yeah.
It was just a situation like that. And Blake Bennett said the noise from everyone this week is going to hurt. If it gets to the players, we could go downhill fast. Yes, we could. There is a confidence issue that is developing on the defensive side of the ball, especially with the run game. And this is not the same defense that was playing against Kentucky running the ball. And Kentucky likes to run the ball. You see teams that are figuring out how to replicate what's going on. Ole Miss needs a fix for what's going on, but that fix may not come until 2023. Tom, what is your truth about this game?
My truth is that from what I saw today, we are going to have a tough road to hoe in the next games that we have. A&M will try and replicate what LSU did. Their quarterback is fairly fast, but he's not as good a passer as Daniels. Alabama's Alabama. I expect Arkansas to look and see what worked today against us. So we've got to really look at fixing our problems. I don't know what the answer is there.
I don't know if there is. You can fix the problem 7 games into a season or 8 games into a season. I don't know if fixing the problems is even an option for teams at this point. I think what you have to do is outscore teams. You need to go into the games just like 2020. You need to go in and try to put points on the board. And if you're going to run the ball and run the clock the way they did early in the season, yeah, that's fine. But this defense right now, they could, as somebody said, David Landrum said, the DC needs to go. The defense couldn't stop a cold today. He doesn't need to go, but no, the defense could not stop a cold today. You had basically Jaden Daniels throwing 9-yard hitch routes with no defender in sight, just over and over and over again to move the chains. The running back, it wasn't the gash plays that we normally see. I think everybody, this is a theory that I have about Chris Partridge, and I like Chris Partridge. I honestly like this defense. Yeah, I was the rat poison. There you go. Who is Life of Dim? Bench Jackson Dart. No, not even a little bit. But when you look at a defense situation, like they have right now, it's self-inflicted. It started out very good. Schematically, it's worked. I just don't know if the stuff that is so good by John Haycock, and he has made a living doing that, and the Big 12 is turning into a running league, he's able to adapt to stop the run. Why is Ole Miss just, I don't know, why is that a problem for Ole Miss at the moment? I don't know. It's not 3 down. Everybody talks about 3 down. The New England Patriots won Super Bowls running 3 down. It's more about physics and how you are using guys in the 3 down look. I just don't understand necessarily why they are struggling so much. I think it might be a confidence issue. I don't know, but this is now 3 or 4 weeks in a row.
Okay, well, I mean, and some of that is us not making plays in the backfield. How many tackles in the backfield have we missed over the last 2 and 3 weeks, right? Like you see us getting to the ball carrier and we're getting hands on them 2 and 3 yards in the backfield, but those guys aren't making plays. I think that's the real problem with the defense right now. You know, I mean, it's not that the 3 down linemen aren't getting penetration with the linebackers, and then if you want to call it the Husky, the Star, whatever you want to put on the safety that you bring up into the box to play the run. I mean, those guys are getting penetration. We're getting into the backfield. They're just not making the plays, and that seems to be the big problem in the run game for us right now.
Well, schematically, I have questions about it. You've got the nose guard that is responsible for one of the A gaps, the 2 ends that seem to be responsible for the C gaps, and the B gaps are left to really undersized linebackers. And on some plays on the running game, you have backs getting 3, 4, 5 yards downfield before they're even touched. I think that's a schematic issue. I think you need to close, if you're going to play this 3-2-6, I think you need to play it the correct way. You don't need to play a hybrid. And what I mean by that is the 2 defensive ends need to be responsible for the B gap. the nose guard one of the A gaps, one of the linebackers one of the A gaps, and then you kind of go to the outside of what's going on instead of having some of the beef that you actually have out in the C gaps, because they're basically just running midline all day long. They're just in between in the B gap. They're just gashing us at the moment, and I don't understand why they, I don't know, can't see that.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly a problem. It's something that's kind of killed us these last couple of weeks. You know, even though we were able to get the win 2 weeks ago, and it's something that's going to be tested certainly this coming up week at A&M. You know, you got Devin Achane. He's an incredible running back, and you would surely think that Jimbo, after watching these last 2 weeks against Auburn and LSU, you know, he's probably going to sit there and feed him and see what he can get going and try to take pressure off his young quarterback too. You know, they got one over there themselves with an incredible running back. So, you know, it's definitely something we're going to have to look at this week and try to figure out how to fix it, because if not, then, you know, Jimbo's probably going to sit there and hand it off to A-Chain over and over and over again and just see if we can stop him.
Yeah. As Jacob Holloway says, everything is still in play. That is absolutely the case. It is 100% still in play.
Yeah. I can't tell you how happy I am that this is like an hour after the game ended, that this post game started, because I was in a really, really bad mood when that last second ticked off, you know. But sitting there kind of thinking about it, everything is still in play for us. You know, we're 7-1 right now. LSU still has to play Bama and A&M and them, you know. So I mean, it's likely they'll end up getting another loss if we can kind of take care of our business, fix the defensive rushing problems that we have right now, and get Zach Evans back. You know, everything is still in front of us. Now it's a tougher hill to climb than what we had going into this weekend. So that's just kind of where we're at now. You got to accept it. You got to move on, and you got to play the next week.
Yeah, David Landrum says, it seems like the offense coach scared today. When things got tough, we folded. We were in control up 17-3. Once LSU got rolling, we had no answers. We talked about this on the show last week. When LSU gets the momentum, they are such an up and down team. But when they get the momentum, they really go. It is important to whoever plays Ole Miss to keep them from getting that up, because once they start going, they can really go. Also, by the way, this LSU team, they have a 2008 Ole Miss potential about this team.
Yeah.
They could close out really solidly. Ole Miss was looking at, you know, a New Year's Six before. I still think 10-2 is possible with this schedule, by the way. I'm not giving up on that, and that's what I said in preseason. But also, I think that they could end up in a bowl game down here by me, and that is really cool. Gamecocks are up 17-0.
Yeah. I was just about to comment on that. I just saw where they scored
what?
again there. Yeah. A&M's in trouble, man.
Yeah, A&M's in worse trouble. Now, everybody's going to overreact, and honestly, that's what this show is for, okay? But understand that everything is still on the table for Ole Miss, just like it was when Alabama lost to Tennessee last week. Today was a wake-up call for this team. Maybe some strategy changes a little bit in the future for Ole Miss because of this game. Jackson Dart did not win the game throwing the ball. Maybe that's an explanation why we're 80% run some of the games. So keep that in mind. We're not there yet. This team was built for 2023, and maximizing the quarterback position, like I told you, 6 or 7 months was important to this season, but also important for next season as well. Luke Harris says we can't maintain a lead for anything. I don't know how they fixed that, honestly. They fixed that by keeping on scoring, Luke. But that's how you don't give up the lead. You don't let the other team go on a 45-0 run. Defense is the problem, Brad G says. Oh, yeah. Obviously, yeah, we went on a little bit of rant on that. The Rebs had no fight in them. They absolutely quit in the end of the fourth quarter.
They did quit.
They did not. They did not want any more from LSU. No. People are going to say they're still in. Yeah, for the season they still are. But for this game, he lost the kids. Yeah.
And again, it's it's such a young team right now and a bunch of new guys. Like and it's not acceptable. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that, but you can kind of see where that would come from at this point in the season. But say we can't hold a lead and all that. I mean, come on, guys. We were 7-0 going into Baton Rouge. That's a tough place to play, and again,
2014.
we did what we did all year long. We played one good half and one bad half, and we knew eventually it would end up catching up with us, and that's what happened today. That bad half ended up being against a pretty good team. LSU's figuring it out. Like this LSU team kind of, to me, feels like the first year of Kirby Smart in Georgia, right? Like, you better get them now because Brian Kelly's going to get those dudes going. Once he gets some guys in there and starts recruiting, Brian Kelly's going to win big at LSU, just like Kirby Smart is over at Georgia. I mean, he's a heck of a ball coach, and he's already got some dudes over there. It's not like he's playing with scraps in Baton Rouge over there. I mean, they're a good team. Once he gets his system in place and those guys start buying in, that they're going to end up playing well, and that's just kind of what's happening right now. We had the unfortunate draw of getting them later on in the year where they're kind of figuring things out a little bit, and they're going to give people fits the rest of the year. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, they will. And whenever I'm going to do a break here real quick, but when we come back, we're going to tell you why this stupid quarterback competition that they did before the season is partially to blame for tonight.
Okay.
Because that is absolutely ridiculous, and that is something that
I
makes me a
agree.
little bit angry. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest place to spice up your college football season. So basically, go to the website, sign up, or the app, get it, and you pick 2 to 5 players, right? And you might decide if you think whether Sean Tucker is going to hit lower than 93.5 rushing yards. He did, by the way. So he did hit the lower on that one. Ohio State versus Iowa. Is C.J. Stroud lower than 305? They blew Iowa out of the water. But if you know those higher or lowers against players, do it. It's easy to play and available in over 30 states. So pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just Ole Miss, and decide whether or not they'll finish higher or lower. Sign up with promo code LOCKEDON, one word, and the Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store and Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, and get in the fantasy football pick'em action today. All right, thank you very much for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and comment and upvote the video as well. Zach Evans was hurt going into the game. He did not play today. David Holly with that question. Luke Harris says it's just frustrating because now the national media is going to have a field day with this. They can, and hopefully Ole Miss can just go about their business and kind of refocus. But this loss, and with everything that started going wrong, the fact that we wasted all of the reps in 4 games on this silly quarterback competition, whenever Jackson Dart could have seen all of these different looks, all of these things, you would have probably 200 more reps if Jackson Dart would have just played those games. He did not.
I completely agree.
Once he got down to Tiger Stadium in his first road game, it overwhelmed him. The moment not necessarily was too big, but it was a hard place to play. If you remember, Bo Wallace lost himself in 2014. Mm-hmm. It happens. Mm-hmm. It can get everybody. You need to rely on muscle memory and consistency of training, and Jackson Dart was unable to do that because they wasted time on this quarterback competition in September. That's my opinion. But I will take that to the grave. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I completely agree. I think what we need to see the rest of the season, this is just my opinion, but that's what we do, right? Perspectives. I would like to see more of the 2020 offensive mindset the rest of the year, putting the pedal to the metal, scoring every time you can, doing whatever you can do, and try to outscore these folks that we're playing the rest of the year. I mean, you look at who we got. We should, my opinion, we should be able to beat Texas A&M. That should
Yeah.
be no problem. Okay, then we've got Bama at home. We need to do like we did in 2020 with Bama. We need to go for it. We need all pull everything out of our rear end to try to make that a game. Arkansas, they're going to be pretty tough at home, but once
Expect last
again,
year's game.
back to back again to what you said though. How much better would we be when we play Arkansas the next to last game of the season on the road at quarterback if Jackson Dart gets 200 more reps?
Mm-hmm. All those reps
You
against
know,
Central
so
Arkansas, Tulsa,
exactly. I
Troy.
would like to, right. I would like to see us do a little bit more of the 2020 offense.
Yeah.
I really would. But
David
you know,
Landry-
we get a lead, and then we kind of go into this safe mode. And the same way on defense today, we played the softest soft zone I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, you're giving the receivers 15 yards, and they're just running hitches all day.
Yeah, it's almost like they coach scared. It's the weirdest thing
Exactly.
right now. They coach scared, and I agree with you. Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions and 5 interceptions in 2020. It's time to turn this loose. And,
I agree.
And anyway, Ronald Smithart says this team has been built for a run next year. That is absolutely correct.
I agree.
Is Dart related to Bo Wallace? Anybody notice the resemblance in statue? Yeah, there is a lot of Bo Wallace in Jackson Dart. There is a ton of Bo Wallace. And I will always say the most important recruit from Hugh Freeze was Bo Wallace.
100%.
By far.
So when we talk about all of this stuff, this is the reason that we had Bo Wallace on there, and he kept doing that over and over again, and people in the chat just started getting absolutely crazy about it. This is the reason he brought that in. I think we can adjust. Now, we had injuries in this day. I mean, Zach Evans, Michael Trigg, every SEC team is going to have it, but Zach Evans, Michael Trigg, AJ Finley, Troy Brown. Those are major pieces of our team that went out. And whenever 2 of those were in, or 3 of those were in the first quarter, Ole Miss was up 17-3. After they went out, it kind of went downhill. It might be a Jake Springer type situation, to where without Jake Springer in the game, the defense just looked completely different. It may be a situation like that with AJ Finley, honestly. Schematically, we're going to talk about the holes, but there is a talent deficiency. We're coming off of probation in 2017, 2018, dealing with that, and they're trying to build this roster up. They're doing it through the transfer portal the best they can, but there still is some depth deficiencies at things right now. So whenever Troy Brown goes out, another Troy Brown isn't waiting in the wings. You have to.
That's correct.
You have to take a little bit of a step down. When AJ Finley goes out, the player that replaces him is not going to be as good. So as I talk myself through this, I'm Captain Optimistic all the time. So I'm going to, like I said, I chalked last week up to Arkansas. I'm just going to chalk this up to Jake Springer being out with the Ole Miss defense in 2021. And by the end of the year, they became pretty good. I think that's what I'm going to chalk it up to. I do know against Texas A&M, this is now a must-win. There is no excuse for losing the game in College Station. You should win this game. It's 17-0, and Connor Weigman's playing quarterback, right?
Yeah. There's actually no excuse down there and lose that game.
That's a true freshman quarterback. So this is a must-win game. Of Ole Miss and Texas A&M, the one you could most afford to lose was LSU, because LSU still has Bama and all of this going on. So everything that you want to do is in front of you. Now, there are some issues and some systemic things that have to be fixed. And I don't know if they can. But theoretically, you can. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah. This, like you said, this game coming up against at Texas A&M is the one we absolutely have to win now. If you want to cement your place in the upper echelon of the SEC West, you have to come out there and you have to beat Texas A&M on the road because, quite frankly, they've shown that they're not that good of a team. Are they incredibly talented? Of course they are. They had number one recruit class in the country, but they seem very poorly coached. Haynes King has really struggled, and you got Devin Achane, who's an incredible running back, one of the best in the entire conference, and we've already talked about him. But them as a whole, as a team, that's if you're going to be one of the better teams in the West, that first, second, even third team in the West, that's one you go and get. You go down to College Station and you take care of business, and you don't, quite frankly, leave any doubt. We're sitting here looking at them now at South Carolina at 17 to 3 now. They ain't kicking a field goal, but they're just, they've really struggled all year long against anybody resembling good competition. And if you see yourself to be one of those better teams, then you got to go down there and not only win, but win convincingly. I think, like, I would almost be disappointed in a single score game. Would I take it? Of course I would. I'll take any win I can get, but it would not make me feel as good as a 14, 17-point win like I think we probably should have down there, just because of the way they're playing, and we've still got everything in front of us. Beat A&M, beat Alabama, and then you go to Fayetteville, which is the drunkest game in college football every other year. Even in Oxford, it gets weird, but damn it, when we go to Fayetteville, I mean, that thing just flies plumb off the rails up there. I mean, it just gets so damn weird up there. So, it's a big 3 weeks coming up for us, and, we got to throw this one in the trash and get ready for 3 really, really big games and, try not to lose sight of what's ahead of us. We're not out of this thing quite yet. If we play our style of football and, today was really the first time that we didn't dictate the pace, right? I mean, we've always wanted to sit there and run the ball and ram it down your throats and dictate the pace on defense too. And, we just couldn't do that. LSU really turned the tides on us there, and Jackson started, throwing, and I thought he played well and all that. We've already talked about that, but yeah, these next 3 games are real big for us, and it's 3 that we really need to win.
Yeah, question in the chat. They're debating whether or not this is a rebuild year. This absolutely is a rebuild year. The Ole Miss lost 30 players or something like that off of last year's team, and all these new players have come in. Now, that said, this is a different rebuild than, say, Matt Luke was going through.
I'm about to say, I think that's a testament to where we're at as a program right now, though, right?
Yeah,
it's 7-1.
Yeah, like this isn't the rebuild, like fire the coach, everybody, all of that. This is almost like an extreme reloading. How about that? We'll say an extreme reloading because I think 95% of the offense are transfers. Oh, Alabama's up 21-0.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if we're in a rebuild year right now, LSU's rushing the field on us in a rebuild year. That's where we are as a program.
Yeah, and I told people all week, I was like, LSU loves to beat an elite Ole Miss team. And you say what you want to say, that number besides Ole Miss's name is what makes the perception what it is. 2014, they rushed the field against Ole Miss, and this year they rushed the field against Ole Miss. Yeah. So, yeah, don't tell me this game doesn't mean anything to them. They don't rush the field for anybody else except for Bama.
That's it.
But it's a crazy thing. I do appreciate you guys coming back on. Let's talk about some of the struggles with Jackson Dart, Tom, that you've seen. Like I said, we talked about how the development was stunted by this. I'm just going to call it a charade at quarterback competition. Them playing the game to try and get Luke not to transfer early. I think that's what they did there. It actually set the offense back from where it should be. Jackson Dart, I think, is an excellent quarterback. I think Jackson Dart is going to be a phenomenal quarterback. Matt Corral level quarterback. He is a Gatorade National Player of the Year. But those reps that were given away back in September, he could have fallen back on those today. What do you think, Tom? I think Tom is gone. Is Tom gone? All right, Derek.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you absolutely nailed it. I mean, we kind of talked about it going into the year, where we thought this quarterback competition was really settled, and then they came out with this, starting Jackson one game, Luke the next game, Jackson the next game, and we really felt that it was really imperative to get whoever you thought the guy was, make a decision before the year, because the way the schedule set up, I mean, yeah, we had easy games to start the year, right? I mean, so get him as many reps as possible with the first team. That way you can get comfortable with all those guys, and kind of settle in a little bit. And, in hindsight, you can look back and say that, yeah, this probably cost us a little bit here today because he didn't have those reps against, I mean, I know Central Arkansas is a bad team. I know you know it. I know everybody listening knows that they're a bad team. But it doesn't matter when you're out there with your guys, with Malik Heath, the first team offensive line, and Mingo and Watkins and those guys. I mean, you're still building chemistry the more reps you get, and that kind of stuff matters because, like you said earlier in the show, it's muscle memory. You're not having to really think about what's going on when you're on the road in Death Valley with all that noise and those fans going crazy in a tight game and all. You call a play, where guys are supposed to be, and you don't even think about it. Your arm just goes back and you let it rip, and you put the ball where the receiver's supposed to be without even thinking about it. And that's kind of where that kind of hurt us right there, and I definitely think there's something to it. Even with Troy, and I know Dart started that game, but Troy has ended up being a lot better win than people thought at the beginning of the year. They're a pretty good team, and so that was nice to see. But yeah, it definitely hurt us a little bit not having those extra reps with Dart.
Yeah, it's a situation where you could have just be better than you are. I think it was you were a little bit too casual with what you had, out of respect and you like both kids. I get that, but It probably did the football team a disservice. Tom, talk about Dart's struggles in the passing game.
Well, he reminds me, like you guys said earlier, of Senior Bo. He's a sophomore, but he also reminds me of sophomore Matt Corral. He's going to make mistakes. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. We need to let him make his mistakes. We need to run a more wide open offense. We need to listen to Bell Flowers and start utilizing the middle of the field. I don't know why we don't run 10-yard curls until they stop us. I just don't get it. We've got the weapons. It's almost like, and I don't know, I'm sure this is Lane, but if it's Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane together, that all year long they've been playing it safe. And I get that. But I think now it's time to go, okay, we played it safe, we got smoked, let's open it up, let's put the pedal to the metal, play 4 quarters of trying to score on every possession, and let's bring some heat on defense.
Yeah. What made Matt Corral good in 2021 was him turning it loose in 2020.
I agree.
That is where he learned how to do it. That is actually where he learned how to play against the drop 8, against LSU with those super athletes at defensive end. He learned how to handle those. And I think it's important for the rest of the season. It doesn't matter if Ole Miss goes 7-5. I don't care if Ole Miss goes 7-5. Jackson Dart needs to be put in position to maximize himself for 2023. That is my opinion on that. Derek?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really what you're setting up for when you look at this team. Obviously, you want to win as many games as you can this year. But looking at this team as a whole, you're looking at having Quinshon Judkins back, Jackson Dart back. I mean, those are the guys you want to get as many reps and as much experience as possible, because you say, hey, I've got another 1-2 years of these guys where I can really make some noise, especially if I bring talent around all of them, right? So you want to get as many reps, as much experience, and at the same time, you're trying to win as many games. I'm sure Lane and us and everybody on that field wants to go 11-1 this year, and finish out the year undefeated. But to your point, it is kind of the way you want to coach the rest of the year. Of, hey, I want you to get these reps, learn this, learn that. Kind of like Corral did in 2020 against Arkansas and LSU. Lane just let him sit in there and just get life lessons, man. I mean, that's the best teacher you can have is life. I mean, if you sit there and live it and you go through it time after time after time, and he did it 6 times against Arkansas, 5 times against LSU, and by the time he come back that next year, every time he saw those defenses, he knew exactly how not to attack it, which is just as important as knowing how to attack it. And I think that's kind of what you're looking at the rest of the year. But as far as I'm concerned, I still have a lot of confidence in this team. I think we're still uber talented. I think Jackson can still make all those big throws that we need to. Our offensive line didn't play particularly good today. Let's be honest. We did not protect Jackson Dart the way we needed to today. And quite frankly,
This
we
is
didn't
also
run
the
the ball.
best defensive line that we've seen.
Yeah, of course it was, and that's kind of a testament to our schedule. Everybody's been talking about it for the last week leading up to this game, but it's not going to get any easier though. A&M super talented. The results aren't there, but it's because they're so young, and they're kind of doing what we're doing. They're going through the reps, going through the motions, trying to get those guys experience, and then what's coming with Alabama, and the back end of Arkansas's defense isn't particularly good, but the front seven is kind of good, and same thing with Mississippi State when they come in. So it's a long road to hoe coming in the last 4 games of the year. But it's something we're going to have to deal with, something we're going to have to adjust to, and it's going to be a lot of really, really good experience for these guys. And if we can get Zach Evans back, that helps a lot, keeping Judkins fresh. I'm pretty sure he had over 30 carries this game, if I'm not mistaken, and averaged just over 3 yards a carry before he busted that big one late in the game. That might have put him over 4 yards. I'm not sure. I didn't look after that, but getting fresh backs, offensive line playing good, but more importantly, let's get experience. Let these guys see the rigors of week in, week out in the SEC, because it's unlike anything in the entire country. Jackson Dart didn't experience this in the 5 games in the Pac-12, and I don't care in the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, nobody experiences what we have to experience every single Saturday in the SEC.
I completely agree.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm just going to say I completely agree. We've got to look at Jackson Dart for what he is. He was a true freshman last year, played a few mop-up games against not great competition in the Pac-12. Came here, had to go through a faux quarterback controversy, so to speak, and got less reps than he needed. And now we've got to set him loose. We've got to set him loose. We've got to start playing like we've got nothing to lose. The only reason we went to the Outback Bowl in 2020, we played like we had nothing to lose.
All right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about this huge hole and problem that we could have at the tight end position. And that's a problem for a Lane Kiffin offense and the middle of the field. And also, we will move our attention to Texas A&M and talk about them next week as well. Stick around. All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including iTunes and Spotify. So leave us a 5-star review and say whatever you want to say. Just make sure it's a 5-star review. That way, when people want to find it, you can find the podcast. Go to the Google machine, Ole Miss Podcast, boom, there we are. So do that for us. It'd make us very happy. All right. So Ole Miss has a problem at tight end right now, and it's unfortunate. Apparently on TV, they claimed that the person that was responsible for the guy that got to Jackson Dart on the interception was Casey Kelly. Casey Kelly had a couple of big drops in the game as well. It's a problem, and it makes the middle of the field even more difficult to go into, because when you have a 3rd and long to where you need to run certain concepts and not necessarily just plays for somebody, you can't really do that whenever you're just drawing up plays for them. So in 3rd down, they're running a route for Casey Kelly. I'm sure that's not what they intended to run, but it hit Casey Kelly in the hands and he dropped the ball. 3 or 4 passes on 3rd and 4th down over the past 3 or 4 weeks have been dropped by him. This is going to cause Jackson Dart to not even look in the middle of the field and potentially throw up more 50-50 balls, which could make the passing game less effective. It's a confidence issue in the middle of the field, don't you think, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a problem. I mean, Casey has gotten open and Jackson has looked his way and he hasn't been able to make the plays. That's really unfortunate because, Casey's in there as a blocking tight end, but you can't bring in Kyron Heath whenever you want to throw the ball because they know exactly what's going on at that point, right? You can't just pull Casey Kelly out every time you want to throw the ball. And that's over the field. He had that touchdown that Jackson kind of overthrew a little bit, and but you had that 3rd down he ended up dropping. That one in the end zone, it was just a little bit overthrown, but if he makes a little bit of adjustment, goes up 2 hands, he could have made a play on it or at least come back into the defender and drawn the flag. And he's basically non-existent in the passing game. So every time you see him in there, you can really not even worry about him being a threat down the field, which is really unfortunate, even though he is a really good blocking tight end. And that's where we really missed Trigg.
Yeah. Somebody said whenever I put this team as quit, which they did today, absolutely, shut up. You have no idea how hard these kids work. Don't take all your happiness in the Saturday of a game, dude. You are literally 7-1. I don't think he understands happiness, or my point.
Look. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt when LSU got rolling there, and particularly in the 4th quarter, you could tell that this team they quit today.
Ole Miss's defense didn't want any. They did not want any more.
None whatsoever. And I don't throw that around. I don't think I've said an Ole Miss team has quit since oh Lord, what was that? Probably back in 2011, I think was the last time I said an Ole Miss team has actually quit on us. But for whatever reason, in the 4th quarter, after they scored that touchdown to go up by 2 scores, that team quit on us. In particular, the defense. And if they didn't quit, then Chris Partridge put us in the absolute worst positions possible to make plays because nobody was around them for the entire 4th quarter to make a play.
Yeah, just people in the chat, what do y'all think? Do you think the defense kind of quit today? Just didn't want any more from LSU in the 4th quarter? I mean, I think that's human nature, but I mean that is what happened.
And especially as young as we are too, like we keep going back to that a little bit. You got transfers and young guys and all that. I mean, it is human nature. It's unfortunate. You never want a team to quit on you on either side of the ball, but I definitely think that's what happened to us on defense there at the latter part of the game.
Tom, it's a bad look. It's not like a fatal thing. We're not saying that the team has just completely quit on the coaches. No, they just quit this game because LSU was just completely whipping their ass all over the field in the 4th quarter, so they just kind of gave up. There was no confidence that they can make a stop. What do you think, Tom?
Oh, I think you guys are exactly right. And it happens sometimes with young people, and like you said, we've got a lot of transfer. And, it's kind of hard to keep going, and kind of hard to keep trying to there at the end. I think anybody who's honest and watched the game saw that.
Hmm.
I'm not busting on the team for it. I'm
No.
just saying that's my observation,
Yeah,
and
not
that's something that they need to work on. I've seen Lane Kiffin teams in 2020 and 21 not quit for anything. They just kept going and going and going, and I think it can be corrected.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking
yeah,
forward to Saturday because I think Saturday we'll see it corrected.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead, Derek.
I would just like to make sure I'm clear. I don't feel like the team has quit on these coaches or anything. I just think in
Yeah.
this particular game there in that fourth quarter,
Right.
kind of like you said, they decided they didn't want anymore, and some of that may have been, you lose Troy Brown, you lose AJ Finley, the two late leaders of that defense there in that quarter late in the game when you really needed them. And I mean, but I don't think it's an indictment on this team or this defense. I don't think they as a team have quit on these coaches, but just the way the game was going, those injuries, being down multiple scores in Death Valley, they just kind of, packed it in and decided to wait till next week. And I think you will see a completely different defense next week, or I sure hope you do at least.
Yeah. I do think it's time to go back to the drawing board a little bit on that.
Yeah.
So let's look at Texas A&M. It's basically Devin Achane and a bunch of dudes. I think Connor Wiegman might be quarterbacking for Texas A&M tonight. He's a true freshman. He's a 5-star. He's talented, but he is a true freshman. They're probably going to use Devin Achane. This could be a 2.5-hour game in College Station. It's Saturday night, period. Derek, what's your thought?
Yeah, it's going to be two teams wanting to line up and run the ball as much as they're allowed to, right? You've hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, that's just kind of both of these teams' identities. That's where the playmakers are at, and if you're not going to stop it, they're going to keep doing it over and over and over again. And at some point, I'm sure Jimbo Fisher, even if he runs it effectively, is going to get in his head that it's about time to throw the ball, and he's going to try to go downfield for 2, 3, 4 drives, something like that, and end up stalling his offense. And that's when we need to take advantage. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely a game with really, really talented running backs, and it's going to come down to whichever defense can figure out how to stop the run. I mean, it's two offenses that want to do that over and over and over again, and we're probably a little more committed to it than Texas A&M is, which is more of an indictment on them than anything because, like we said, they have one of the best backs in the league, but they just don't want to sit there and feed him 30 times a game. But
But
I
we
hope
said the
this.
same thing about Tank Bigsby, and he did different in Oxford.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw that as a one-off. Surely we're not going to get that twice in a year, right? Where you have these super talented running backs that are underutilized. And like, oh, wait a minute, here's Ole Miss. We'll go ahead and throw it to them this time. And so hopefully they don't sit there and hand it off 30, 35 times like they did with Tank Bigsby, who's an incredible back too. We talked about that leading up to the Auburn game and about how underutilized he was, and then we saw what he ended up doing to us.
Yeah. And Derek Cannon in the chat says, "Go Tigers." And absolutely. Thank you, sir. May I have another type
Yeah.
situation for that game.
Yeah.
Good
Keep
game.
That might be the guy who DM'd me earlier. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a very good game. Very good at game plan by Brian Kelly. I mentioned at halftime that I was just impressed with what they're doing. It might not work, but I think they were doing the right thing, and they just completely caved in Ole Miss in the second half. So congratulations, Derek. Great win for you guys. I think you got an off week and then Alabama, so it could get pretty interesting for you guys. Brian Kelly's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
You
got a great
Ronald Smithhart says the defense is way too small. And Gail Hanna said my popcorn got soggy. I don't know if that was from tears or if it was just from butter. I don't know what's going on. And so that is what's going on. And any final thoughts before we get out of here tonight?
No, I just think we need to realize, I know the coaching staff will realize, Jimbo Fisher is going to try and pound that rock until we stop it. And he's going to try and stop our run game and make Jackson Dart beat him. Think that's what we're looking at this coming Saturday.
Yeah. Also, remember, to anybody following this podcast and watching right now, there's no consequences for you being confident. There's nothing going on. Be just as confident for next week. Do not get into a situation where you're not confident, because there's American college football fans do not like a confident Ole Miss fan. And media does not like a confident Ole Miss. So we will be confident. We will be a little bit over the top because there's no consequence for being wrong. Yeah. We're not affecting the outcome in any way. It's just a confidence thing amongst our fan base, and we will continue to do that. Tom, any last thoughts?
You got to lose one to go to 11-1, so let's go ahead and go to 11-1.
There you go. Also, we're getting close to the like if they go 9-3, they're either going to go to Tampa or Orlando. That's going to be like an hour drive for me. So that would be beneficial for me. If they go 10-2, they'll probably go to the Orange Bowl. That's like 2 hours for me. So either way, there's a chance I'm going to be covering the bowl game. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Before we get out of here. Yeah, before we move, close it tonight, can we stop with the saying that Ole Miss plays well in Tiger Stadium? Ole Miss used to play well in Tiger Stadium. They do not play that well there anymore. That narrative is gone.
It didn't
work out.
But we did play well the first half, so we played
first quarter.
First quarter,
Tiger Stadium. How about that?
Yeah.
we had a really good script.
Yeah, that's it. That's about as far as it goes.
So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Congratulations to the LSU Tigers. They completely just whooped Ole Miss's ass. And they deserve every good thing that is coming to them. They've got Bama in 2 weeks with a chance to honestly put a stranglehold on the SEC West. So good for Brian Kelly. Good for the LSU Tigers.
Yeah. I mean, they control their own destiny, you know. I mean, their one SEC loss is there against Tennessee, you know. So I mean, they've got everything in front of them, kind of like Ole Miss does right now. If LSU can drop another game, then we are able to, you know, control our own destiny. So it's going to be a fun few weeks there to the finish line. See how it turns out.
All right. Anyway, for Tom and Derek, I'm Steven Willis. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Tune in Monday for our 3 takeaways from this game. I'm sure I'm going to have some thoughts. For those guys, I think Tom will be on that podcast with me as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be on that one.
Yeah, so he'll have thoughts as well. So tune in for that. I'm Steven Willis for Tom Vanderford and Derek Vandygriff. Have a good day. Hotty toddy.
Hi, guys.